everyone. Dr. Nick Hilverma here with another edition of Things I Didn't Learn in Med School. Today, I want to talk about human agency and what that means for me and what that may mean for you. I want to start off with a quote from Friedrich Nietzsche that says, "Nothing helps. I must help myself or I'm finished." This is such a powerful quote when it comes to thinking about human agency and how we have much more control over our lives, especially when it comes to health, than we allow ourselves to believe. In combination of talking about human agency, this conversation, this monologue I want to have, also wants to point out the discrepancies in this misinformation world and all the disinformation of health and health care that's out there. Now, I'm not going to directly hit any specific posts, but I think what's important is going back to the Nietzsche quote is, if I'm not helping myself, then what am I doing and how am I going to grow? Or how am I going to get better? Or how am I going to heal? So that is the conversation that I wanted to have today and talk about today. I think it's important to understand that we have a plethora of information out there, and it's difficult to cipher through what is good information and what's bad information. But there are tons and tons of resources that we often ignore because we want to sit here and blame the easy things. Easy things being some chemical in the food or in the water or microplastics or red dyes. I'm not saying that these things are healthy for us. They are probably, in fact, not healthy for us. But the idea is that we're all sitting here as a society directly viewing these things as this is why we're all unhealthy, when we're not looking directly at the causes of diet, stress management, exercise, mental health, important interactions with family, important sleep habits, and everything above. These are the basis of the agency that we need to be helping ourselves with. Starting with diet, we could easily change a lot of our dietary habits to having less processed foods, having less inflammatory foods, having less sugar, having less processed meats, going more for lean meats and vegetables and fruits and whole grains, not processed grains. And this is very, very easy, small steps that we can take. Now, I should note that I understand that this is coming from a position of a lot of privilege, that we have this advantages. I'm guessing anyone that's watching this is probably coming from a similar place of you have the abilities to do these few steps. I'm not talking about the people that are in poverty or in areas that have less resources. I'm talking about people directly watching this video. There's a whole thing to be said about people in poverty in those situations that are important, but that's not really the topic of what I want to talk about today. Unfortunately, those do tend to be the people that are more sick in society. And I do hope and wish that we can continue to get education and better resources for those people, as any healthcare physician or provider does wish for the population. But there's a lot of resources that are up against that right now. The second thing is just exercise. Quite often you're going to hear individuals come out and say, mainly health grifters, that are saying, doctors don't talk about exercise. Doctors don't tell us what to do. I don't know of any doctor that doesn't tell their patients that they should be out there exercising. Even patients that get injured. I don't know of physicians anymore that say you shouldn't be exercising. A lot of times we're saying, there's a concept of relative rest, but you should be exercising and you should be moving the body. And this involves both strength training and cardiovascular training. It can't be one or the other, it needs to be both. You also have agency to stretch, do yoga, do things like Pilates, um, other exercises that will keep your mobility and flexibility up that can also make you feel good. That's going to propel you to do these exercises more and more. Um, Mental health is another huge one that we can advocate for ourselves. And this is very easier said than done, but using our mindfulness and using our social interactions and meditation and I'll go back to yoga as concepts of things that you can use for yourself to make yourself feel better, to lessen your load of stress. Those social interactions are super important for this. Um, Mindfulness, meditation, um, just any practice to de-stress is very important for us all. And then the concept that we might overlook quite often is preventative care, getting our checkups, making sure our blood sugars are within normal range, making sure our cholesterol is within normal range, making sure that our hearts are appropriate, making sure our blood work's up to date, colonoscopies, prostate exams. These are all very important things that if we want to prevent the burden of chronic disease, as as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is trying to do, these are the places to start. These are the root causes of chronic disease. It's not some magical thinking of a pesticide. Again, I don't think these things are good for us, but that's not where we should be starting. We should be starting on these 4 core things that I just talked about of diet, exercise, mental health, and preventative medicine. It really isn't that hard. But again, in our world, we want to pick the easy thing to blame. We want to blame the medical industrial complex with all its faults. We want to blame our physician. We want to blame the food pyramid, which has been not really been active since like 2014. We want to blame the statin. We want to blame all these things when that isn't really what the blame should be placed on. And this comes with the same thought process of just avoiding or people want to avoid the complexity of things. I know I just use the concept of root cause of chronic disease, but what's funny is if you ask any of these functional medicine doctors, integrative doctors, um, chiropractors, naturopaths, is if you could actually describe the pathophysiology of these cellular mechanisms, you are not really talking about the root cause. You are using a overarching concept to make yourself seem intelligent about a situation. And I'll just give you a basic example of someone that herniates a disc. Everyone in the world, well, I'm using a very overarching term when I'm saying everyone in the world, but people think that the disc herniation itself is what's causing the pain, when it's way more complex than that. It has a lot to do with pain mediators. It has to do with the pain processing pathways in the body. It has to do with what chemical mediators, what inflammatory pathways are activated, what load management is on that area. Is that segment stable or unstable? These are all factors that go into a root cause of a disc herniation being painful. And the reason we know this is because people are walking around in the world with disc herniations that have zero pain. So I just want that to be a message to people when you're thinking about things critically and avoiding these medical nihilisms of just because something seems complex, just because something is complex, doesn't mean that there's always just a easy way to go about it. And this is a concept of why debunking pseudoscience is very important, and why it's something that most physicians go after, is because when we're talking about going up against people that don't have any evidence-based mechanisms, or going up against evidence-based medicine, is there's a difference of someone that is giving recommendations on diet and health and lifestyle based off their own lived experience of a heart attack. There's a chiropractor that I'm not going to name right now, but this is his whole platform. He had a heart attack at the age of 30 something. He's type 1 diabetic. He has all these other health issues, and he blames the medical industrial complex. He blames society. He didn't take any agency of himself. I looked at the pictures of him. He does not look like a relatively healthy guy. He thinks he looks relatively healthy. He thinks he was doing all the relatively healthy things, but he wasn't. And now he's blaming other people because it's easy for him to do that. What he's ignoring, again, is those pathophysiological cellular mechanisms that got him to where he is. And that has a lot to do with his health conditions, what he thought was a healthy diet, and his type 1 diabetes. And this is why it's important for us to stay ahead in scientific literature. It's easy for society to blame pharmaceutical companies for making record profits year after year. And I agree that has to have some problem to it. But what you're missing is these drugs that get approved take lots and lots of research, and the research takes lots and lots and lots of money. And when these studies come out, more often than not, what they're showing is this medication saved X amount of lives. And that in itself is a good study. But when studies find it unethical to not treat with these medications because it saved that many lives, then that becomes a great study. And these studies are repeated time and time again. This quite often can be talked about in, for example, like blood thinners that are out there. Not something I'm going to get deeply into, but just a concept I want people to understand. But this is why it's important to understanding the scientific literature, understanding risk factors, and being a skeptic, but an optimistic skeptic about the research that comes out. It's easy to say things work just because there's a few good studies. But quite often people are reciting studies that were done in mice. And there's no real truth to it in humans, and the human cohorts of the studies have not been paralleled. So that's something to be mindful of when we're taking agency of our own health and how we want to address these things when we're taking agency for our health, and not taking the easy way out to blame other things. This reminds me of a concept that came up that I was reading over. A Journal of American Medical Association came out with a study, I think it was 2018, of N=1 trials of self-experimentation for musculoskeletal conditions. What it found was that there was a significant amount of, well, I don't know if it was statistically significant, but we'll say significant in the sense of satisfactory, that the user experience was in fact that satisfactory, that the person that was doing the N=1 experiment found good results with whatever that experiment was. But the N=1 trial participants, after 6 months, actually did not have significantly, and this I think is statistically significant, improvement of their interference of pain at 6 months versus the usual care. Meaning, what is in the evidence-based side of things did actually have longer, better term outcomes. I like you to explore that into other realms of the health and wellness field. When someone says that they're on the carnivore diet, it may not be the carnivore diet itself, but that they actually went on a diet, took agency of their own life, decided to do something, start exercise again. Whenever you go on any diet, including the carnivore, you go in a calorie deficit, and that's going to help lose weight and make you feel better and make you move around. That is a concept that it's very important to remember, that it may not be this one factual thing. It's actually the complex, the root cause of everything working together to make people feel better, believe in that, and work better to continue their health and progress. So that's something super important. And I think this is where it comes back to, if you're not helping yourself, even these people that go on a carnivore diet, they're helping themselves because they want to take agency of their own health. Now, there comes with its own plethora of issues. The studies, you can sit here and debate nutrition studies till you're blue in the face, mainly because there's a lot of grifters out there that can make their studies look really, really good versus the decades of evidence-based nutrition research that, in frankness, is really boring and it's really not sexy. It's not cool. It's not crazy amazing. If you do the basic stuff right, you're going to lose weight. You're going to feel healthy. You're going to be healthy. But people want that shiny object. They really do. They want to blame something easy. They want an easy way out. This reminds me of a conversation I was having with my girlfriend yesterday of the concept of yoga. And when you're doing yoga, there are parts of the yoga practice where you're sitting here shaking, your breathing gets short and a little shaky. You don't want to be there. Mentally, you're checked out. You want to distract yourself. There are yogis out there that will say, if this is too difficult for you, then just don't do it. In my mind, is when things become challenging like that is the best time to really hone in and focus and start breathing on the difficultness of what's going on. And that's how you make growth, and that's how you get better at yoga or anything in life. You get through those barriers. And the shiny object, the easy thing to do, this can equate to something like an ice bath. Now, I really don't have any issues with ice baths for increasing mood temporarily. The concept that it may help decrease chronic inflammation, I don't know. A lot of other studies just really haven't been proven. If nothing else, I think it's great because it makes you feel good. And I agree, it does make you feel good. But the problem is you don't really do any actual physical work to make you feel good. So it's a non-drug that makes you feel like you have in a euphoric state, which is fine. There are much less healthy ways to achieve those states, and that would be with drugs and alcohol or destructive behaviors. So if nothing else, it has benefits of that, but it's not like something like yoga or going for a run that's a little bit too long for you, or really doing the mental work to stress yourself to get through a tough time in business or in writing or in music or what have you. That stress that you go and put yourself through is probably just as important as the action and result itself, because over time you slowly grow and build and stuff like that. So that's why I feel like it's important, things like yoga versus just taking an ice bath. I think both are super important and both can be beneficial, but I don't think what are we replacing? Are we replacing that actual effort that takes us to get to that point for something that's easy, just filling up an ice tub and mentally jumping over that hurdle, getting in for 2, 3, 5 minutes, whatever, and getting out? And don't get me wrong, it's not easy, and I'm not trying to say that, but it seems like a quick shortcut. And we know in life there aren't really shortcuts like that. If anything, when it comes to health and agency, it's the thing that you need to be the most dedicated to for the longest amount of time for the most benefits. There is nothing in our health world that is an easy, quick fix until you get to the point where you need significant medical intervention. And I think that's a great way to kind of sum up the whole concept of agency for us. And I want to give a quick example for myself of my recent video was last week, maybe the week before that, and I was talking about how I injured my back. And I took a lot of agency for something along those lines. And instead of just taking medications, I did not take any non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medications. I did not take any steroids. I did not um, take any painkillers, opioids. The only thing I took was a muscle relaxer for about 2 nights, just because those first 2 nights I really couldn't sleep. But even during the day, I was not laying in bed. I was not babying myself. I was doing active things to help my back pain. That was walking around the house. That was doing gentle, light stretches. That was doing putting my back in different positions. That was massage gunning. That was stretching. That was heat. Um, I went to a chiropractor, not for adjustments, and not saying anything necessarily wrong with adjustments, but what we did was dry needling and shockwave therapy. I I was walking as much as I could at different angles, at different speeds, to try to see what triggered my back pain and what didn't. And over the next 2 or 3 weeks, I guess 2 weeks now, my back pain is 90% better. Now, I'm not going to go load it because I know it's going to take some more time for the tissue to get the strength, but 90% back pain free again. Um, I took agency of my own life and I took this back pain control into my own hands and I went to go do something about it. I didn't rely on a crutch. I didn't rely on medications. I didn't rely on the chiropractor. I didn't rely on this, that, or the other. I took the agency for my own health. And this is something I want people to start taking agency for themselves. There is no easy way to your health care solutions. You have to do the work. You have to do the work. And I think that's what's important for me. And that's the message that I'm trying to get out there. And I think it's a message that a lot of us really need to hear for ourselves. Anyways, I know this was a little preachy, but I hope you guys found it useful. And if you did, please drop some comments, some questions. And if you want to talk more, let me know. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.